Let's make an app like this with Android Studio. This app mimics the Sims health levels. You can change them to how you're feeling and check back if your needs have improved. First, go to android.com and install the Android Studio installer and run it. I already have it installed, so I will cancel this installation. Next, open Android Studio and create a new project using the empty views activity project template. We will use Kotlin language for this tutorial. Let's make sure our phone is connected and recognized by Android Studio. Plug in your phone to your computer via USB. If you do not see your phone pop up in this dropdown, click the troubleshoot option and rescan devices. If you still don't see it, make sure in your phone settings under developer options, you have the USB debugging option turned on. Once your phone is connected, click run to see if you can compile. If you get an error like this with incompatible version, go to the build Gradle file and change the compile SDK version to the recommended version. Save that and click the option to sync your settings. Now when we run it, it successfully runs and an app will pop up on your phone with the Hello World default app. I'm showing the screen of my phone here. Now time to change the code. Let's start with the main XML file called activity main XML. I'm going to be changing the view back and forth a lot for activity main XML, which I accomplish using the Alt-Shift-Left arrow key. This allows us to focus on the visual editor or the XML itself, all of which are part of the same visual layout of the app. To start, let's put a container called cardView into our XML. Here we can set some constraints for the cardView element. If we look deeper into the XML, we can see the XML settings. We can delete any biases, and let's change the constraint of the top of this card element to be based off the bottom of the text element. This means the text element will be on the top and the card element will start right below it. It will reference the top text element by its ID, so let's give it an ID to reference from. Let's also change the title text to say needs because that's what the Sims call it. And when you change the string, you have to add it as a resource. Lastly, I'm going to delete the bottom constraint of the title. Now it will start at the top of the page. Let's add two widgets to the card view, a text view and a seek bar. In the XML, you can see our card view with the text view and seek bar as its children. This text view will be the name of the need, like hunger. Let's make that string a resource and let's copy the constraints into our text view and modify them. This text will have its bottom constrained to the top of the seek bar, so it will be stacked on top of the seek bar. And for the seek bar, we will change the height to be a little taller and we will copy the constraints in again, but this will just be constrained by the parent, which is the card view. And if we run that, it looks like a good size. The hunger text is aligned nicely with the seek bar inside the card view. And so let's give the card a color to match the Sim style a bit more. You can also change the color in the visual editor here. Same goes for the text styles, text size, and so on. Let's run this and we have a blue card with a bigger text looking better, but the seek bar itself is a little thin. To really customize the seek bar, let's make a new styling file by creating a new resource file in the drawable folder. I'll call it progressdrawable.xml. In this file, let's add some boilerplate and items for the background and the progress line. We can define a shape in here for both items. Then we just have to add that style to the seek bar XML. Since we made the bar thicker, we also need to update the thumb size to be bigger too. Run that and our bar is more like a Sims bar. Now that we're satisfied with how our hunger bar looks, let's copy and paste the card view and its children 7 more times to get all 8 need bars like in The Sims. Each set will need to update the IDs and be constrained to the previous card view so they stack on top of each other. Run that and we have all of our need bars. Lastly, let's change all the titles to be the needs of the Sims like bladder, energy, comfort, etc. Alright, now that we have our bars looking how we want, let's add the logic. In the main activity.kt file, we can add a listener for the seek bar so that when something changes, we trigger a function. Let's get all the IDs of our seek bars into an array so we can loop through each seek bar element. Make sure to import the needed includes. So for each seek element, we will use the seek bar function called setOnSeekBarChangeListener, which will allow us to override the available listener functions. We can change what happens when the seek bar progress changes, when we click on it, and when we stop clicking on it. We will focus on that last one. So in the function called onStopTrackingTouch that already exists, we will override it so that it calls a new function we make called setColorSeek. Let's define this new function setColorSeek to take in a seek bar, and inside it we will change the color of the seek bar depending on what the progress value is. So when the progress is a really low value, we will make the bar red, and as it goes higher, we change the colors all the way to green. You can set the colors using RGB codes, and there are also predefined colors you can use. And now when we run that, you can see that after we click and let go of the bar, it finds where the bar is and changes the color accordingly. There is one problem with this though. When we exit the app and reopen it, the values we had previously set are reset. We want these values to persist. The easiest way to persist data is with the Shared Preferences class, which stores the data in an XML file in the app's private storage. This is used for storing very simple values like integers. There are many other ways you can store more complex data, and I listed those resources in the description. So basically, to use shared preferences, you just use the getSharedPreferences function with whatever you named it and edit it with a put function. I will store the seek ID and its progress value. Then I will have it update the color. Since we also want this value to show up when we first open the app, let's move this declaration outside of the listener declaration so we have access to it when we initialize the app. Now when we initialize, we can set the stored value, change the color, and create all the listeners that will also update the stored value and update the colors. Now let's try it. We can change all these colors and exit the app, reopen it, and the values are the same when we reopen the app. Perfect. One last thing, I want to change the progress bar thumb color. We will also update that every time the progress changes. And there we go, it looks just like the Sims need bars. You could go even further and set up timers for each of these values so they slowly decrease just like a sim. Hope this helps introduce you on how to use Android Studio and make your first app.